Valerie, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. To everyone listening, this is our second try at recording this podcast. The first time we had quite a few technical difficulties. So far, it sounds like this one might be going a little bit better. The way I wanted to start this was I am desperately curious to know where you got the name VDizzle.
Yeah, so that nickname came from high school. I graduated from high school in 2009. And so that was around the time where Snoop Dogg and Pharrell were releasing hot tracks, on the radio. And one of the hottest songs on the radio was Drop It Like It's Hot. And during that
Of
time,
course.
I don't condone any gangster violence stuff, but that was the vibe and the culture in the music. And so I was on this volleyball team, and we get our hoodies, and we get to choose a nickname to put in the back of our hoodies. And everyone had like cool gangster names, like G Dog or whatever. And so then everyone just started saying I should be VDizzle. And it kind of stuck because people liked how it sounded and stuff. And it was just fun to say. So I've kind of kept that around in my usernames and emails sometimes. So yeah, it was perfect for, the market that we're in NFTs, because you get to kind of unlock your child stuff. And like when it comes to images like NFTs and JPEGs, right? And so another thing is like your username. People are bringing back their AOL Instant Messenger usernames. So yeah, that's where my nickname comes from.
Oh, yikes. I don't know if I want to bring back my Hotmail email address. Um, it was gabethebabe at hotmail.com. Just for everyone
Wow.
listening. No,
You definitely
so
should bring that
here's
back.
why I'm
Come on.
jealous of the whole VDizzle thing, because during I vividly remember that same time you were talking about when Drop It Like It's Hot was the anthem, and
Mhm.
I tried so hard. You were given your VDizzle name. I tried to give myself my own, and I went with G-Dizzle, and it did not stick. Unfortunately, nobody would call it
No
outside
way.
of my Xbox gamer tag. So that's why I wanted to start here because I definitely resonate and am very jealous.
uh, and well, hey, there's G Dog. Maybe if you like G Dog, I can get down with that.
I don't think I can pull that off. Um, Anywho, so Valerie VDizzle, you are one of the most engaged and active people that I follow on social when it comes to NFTs, crypto, Web3, the entire space. I love your energy. I love the things that you bring, especially on Twitter and some of the discords that we're involved in. Would love to just hear a little bit about how you got started on that journey, like where it all kind of clicked for you and made you take the leap into going into the space that we're in.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna take it back to 2020. And, my story starts off kind of sad, but everything happens for a reason. So, in July of 2020, was when we were still in the middle of the pandemic. I had like a crisis, like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Because I was a lifeguard for 7 years. I had my bachelor's degree, but then I got laid off, and I was like, where am I going to go, after this? And then I decided to get into my master's program. So I applied to Point Loma University in San Diego. I got accepted for the sports medicine program. And then unfortunately, right when I started my program, so I started in July of 2020, and then the next month in August, my mom unexpectedly passed away. And so through that, I wasn't even able to
Mm.
grieve. So from 2020 through the rest of the year into 2021, the program was so rigorous, where I didn't have time to grieve. And so here we are now, like almost, it's May 2021. And that was around the time I was studying for finals. and I'm in a cafe, and my boyfriend comes in and is like, "Oh my God, Valerie, you need to set up your Coinbase account, your MetaMask, NFTs, this and that, Gary V." And I was kind of like, okay, leave me alone. Why should I care about NFTs? Like, I'm trying to do my final here. And I knew of Gary Vee, but I didn't follow him like he did. He had followed him for 8 years. And he just kind of explained to me that this was a point where, here's a new wave of technology, blockchain technology, and people who invested in the internet when it first started, or when there was the wave of smartphone apps, and people who invested in those, and they stuck with it, they became wealthy, in the following years after. And so even though I didn't understand NFTs, that made sense to me, and that was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I don't really know Gary Vee, but I trust you. And so for me, it was kind of like, well, my mom had just passed away, a year before. And, I just had myself and my younger sister, who's 21. We're 10 years apart. And so, my mom didn't come from money. We didn't come from money. So unfortunately, when she passed, there was nothing to inherit. So I didn't have any kids. I still don't. And all I have is my sister. So I was like, what am I going to leave her when I pass, or my future family? So that was kind of like, okay, I've got to take this risk. I got to figure it out, because that's all I have is my sister. And so, that was in May of 2021, and I wasn't able to afford ETH. And so my boyfriend just said, start a Discord, get your account going, and do whatever Gary Vee says. He's gonna do like a giveaway for some of his VeeFriends tokens. And then I ended up winning. I ended up winning one. Gary had sent out a Google form where it said, what does VeeFriends mean to you? And I just replied with my story and what I just said right now, how I was in my sports medicine program, how my mom just passed the year before, and how I'm just trying to figure it out. And I really want to start making some wealth if I can. And this is the chance for me, for not just myself, but also to pass down to my sister. And so I believe that's one of the biggest reasons why he chose me as one of the winners. And so, yeah, that was super life changing. And of course, through that time being in the Discord, I became connected to the community, all the people. I didn't know how they looked, but there were so many people in there who were on similar journeys, who had gone through some hardships and were just looking for a way to feel like they can make some money potentially. But then, of course, I just realized, wow, this is a community that also cares, because I started learning that Gary Vee shares the same values as I have always thought of, like, leading with kindness, have empathy for others, being patient and compassionate. And so the community that he tends to crowd is those types of people. And so that community really came in for me at a time where I was feeling really lost, obviously, losing my mom. And then the next month, in July of 2021, I said, you know what? I need to take a break from school. I need to take some time to work on my mental health. I got a grieving therapist. And then here I was, taking my break, and I didn't have to get a job right away because I had savings still from the pandemic. And so I had all this free time. So then I was like, I'm going to take a deep dive into NFTs. And so fast forward to July of 2022, and I'm still in it doing NFTs now full time. And in May, a couple months ago, they reached out to me, school, and they said, "Are you gonna come back? Your year's over." And I was like, "Thank you, but no, thank you." So I'm here to stay, and school will always be there if I want to go back for my master's. But like I said, I think, this wave of technology where you're really in the forefront, the beginning, the early foundation of it, won't always be here. So yeah, that's kind of my story and how I really started into the space.
Oh, so much to unpack there. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, no, I love hearing that story overall, and that was the story that Gary picked for his Go tokens. I vividly remember a lot of those giveaways and the people that they went to, and they were always the ones that you just you couldn't be mad that they went to these people. You were, if nothing else, overjoyed that they of the people that he picked, it went to the right people. And so I was so happy to hear that you were impacted positively from that. It sounds like a lot of changes come from it too, in really positive ways for your life, and it couldn't have been at a better time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, shout out to Gary because he does. I feel like he tries to choose people that it could potentially be life changing for them. And I think, not just with VeeFriends, but in NFTs and blockchain technology in general. I mean, really, people are starting a whole new life using this technology and getting involved and transferring their skills over, and exploring passions that they had left behind, and they got stuck in this loop, and then all of a sudden they get excited again because here's something new. And I think it's wonderful people are taking chances on themselves.
One of my favorite ideologies is around taking risks, because so many people are so scared to take a risk. They're scared to leave their hometown. They're scared to go try that new job or that new entrepreneurial venture. But something that I think is being talked about more, but still not enough, is around, if you go and take that risk, what you're doing right now most likely will still be there. To your point, school will still be there if all none of this works out and you change your mind and you want to go back and pursue that. Their hometown will still be the same if they go and visit another city and end up hating it. Right?
Yeah.
Try a new job and end up hating it. They can always get back into their corporate job if they want to. And it's about risk taking, and ultimately about not having regrets.
Right.
And it sounds like you are leaning on the side of, this is, very new. We are so early, and every day that we're in this, I realize even more so how early we are. So I used to think I had a concept of it, and every day I'm just like, wow, we're so early. And I, like, earlier a couple months ago, I felt late,
Mhm.
right? But
Right.
it's a matter of just spending the time in there, taking the chance, taking the risk, understanding that as long as you don't over leverage yourself, you're going to be in a position to take a step back, like regroup, and then go on to the next thing. And so that's incredible that you've been able to take those chances, take those risks per se, and get to experience what could potentially be a life-changing technology for you and your family.
No, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think for the people, whoever is listening and is contemplating, should I take this risk? And whether it's with blockchain technology or not, I think people need to figure out their why. What is going to motivate you to get over that fear or that bridge, that hump, that obstacle that's in front of you? And for me, obviously, it was my sister. Like, she is my why. I do everything I want to do. I want to be successful for her. I want to be that role model for her. So I would, really stress to people who are trying to figure out if they should take that risk, really dig deep and tune in into that why, because that why is going to be so important to you, so much enough that you're going to want to take that risk.
Yeah, and even after you take the risk, you need that why to keep going, because there's going to be so many challenges that come along with that, so many unknowns, and you have to be able to hold on to that reason as to why you're continuing to go down this path, continuing to stay uncomfortable, to ultimately get to that end result, which is the reason you started in the first place. You need that reminder.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be curious to know, you had said, or let me take a step back. So right when your boyfriend came to you in that cafe, the ill-timed conversation, it said like Gary V, NFT, life-changing technology. I had a very similar conversation with a couple people that are close to me, and did not get the same results that he ended up getting in terms of buy-in and like, okay, let's be curious and check this out. So what do you think it was more your personality that drove being able to be curious and like explore it and not just say no right away? Was it something in the way that he communicated it to you that just might have hit different? Be curious to know what that conversation was like.
You know what? I guess maybe it does have to do with me being just a curious person. I've always been someone who's been free spirited and love to take adventures and explore and try new things. And I could tell you, like when Keegan, my boyfriend, came into that cafe and was telling me about NFTs, I was getting frustrated. I was getting upset with him because I was like, tell me, what is NFTs? What does that even stand for? And he couldn't even explain himself. Like he was that new into it as well that he's like, I don't even know. I don't even know myself what this is. But he had told me he had followed Gary Vee for 8 years. And he said he's starting to see this, change in Gary Vee and the way he's speaking in his videos and the way he's articulating what he's saying about this technology. He said, I've seen Gary this long and I've never seen him act this way, talk about it this way. He's changing. And to me, that is signaling something. And I don't know what it is, but I just know that I can't miss this boat because Gary has been right time and time again with these changes and these new waves in technology and saying, hey, get in now and blah, blah, blah. And when you do, then 5, 10 years later, you're really reaping the rewards from that. So, when he started saying that to me, I was like, that is interesting. When you've almost maybe known someone or followed, someone for so long, and you see this change that is so different, it makes you wonder, well, what's causing that change? And for him, for Keegan, he noticed it was more of a positive change, right? Starting to lead more with the empathy and kindness. All of his NFT characters are about that. And so, when he explained that to me, I was like, okay, I believe you. This is not some random guy just coming into the cafe telling me about Gary Vee. This is someone I've been dating, for 10 years actually. And so I trust my boyfriend, and through him, when he's telling me that, Gary Vee's changing and the way he's talking about NFTs and blockchain is just so different than what it was even just like a year or two ago. And so that caught my eye, that caught my interest, and I said, okay, I'll figure it out with you. And it was nice to have someone to go on that journey with me, like right from the beginning, trying to understand what NFTs are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had conversations with people where it is very evident that they want that, right? Whether it's their significant other, it's their best friend, it's a family member, having somebody to go along that journey with you makes it 10 times better. And I think that's a big reason that, a lot of people got into the space, we'll say VeeFriends specifically, they might have gotten into it for the financial opportunity, but a reoccurring theme I'm seeing is they're staying in it because of the community. It's because of the people. And to your point earlier, VeeFriends people are next to none. Like there aren't communities that are the same as the VeeFriends community and the people within it. They're so loving, they're so caring,
Mhm.
and all they want to do is help each other, whether it's from a financial perspective, an educational perspective, an advice perspective, or just being an ear.
Yeah.
Right? They're just such a tight knit, amazing community that doesn't care about your background, doesn't care about where you came from, doesn't care about what you look like, doesn't care about your gender. It's just family.
Yeah.
And it's family in nearly its purest form, considering like a majority of us aren't related, right? And so it's absolutely incredible to have people to go through this journey with and feel as close to, even though most of us haven't met in person.
I know, yeah. And I can talk about this for hours about how amazing the community is, specifically in VeeFriends and most of NFT Web3 world. I mean, the community is amazing, but specifically within VeeFriends, it's so warming to see that there is a slice of humanity, right there that is still kind and empathetic, and helpful and genuine. And like you said, like they don't care what your background is, your gender, anything. Everyone is like super inclusive, and there's so much diversity that you feel like you're a part of it. I've gone through life actually where I was made fun of for being sensitive. Being sensitive was seen like as a negative connotation, like, oh, you have too many feelings, you wear your heart on your sleeve, and that was seen as a bad thing. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't change that. Like, this is who I am. I'm sorry that I care so much, kind of thing. Didn't know that was a bad thing. But then here in this VeeFriends community, it's welcomed, it's encouraged. People admire those people who can actually know how to articulate their feelings, because not everyone can, right? You have so many things that people go through, whether it's your childhood or the friends that you grew up with, that like put on these layers that when you become an adult, you have to start unwrapping, taking off those layers to actually understand what is the core, right? What is your core feelings, and articulate, all of that. So I've always been someone who can come and say, hey, this is how I feel. And sometimes people just don't know how to react to that. But in the VeeFriends community, everyone is just like, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing and being open and honest and transparent. And I think that that's where we need to head as a society, right? Is not to hold things in. And I like to think that's where we're headed as we see mental health even, be talked about more. So yeah, VeeFriends community is the best.
Yeah, I love that. And you're a part of a lot of other communities as well. Obviously, you're a moderator in the VDAO. You're a moderator within Flower Girls, founder of San Diego NFT Friends, founder and member of the VeeLeadHers, formerly VeeWomen.
Yeah.
And we're definitely going to touch on that. So, what has encouraged you to kind of branch out to these other communities? From what I can tell, for the most part, they're all kind of stemming off of the VeeFriends community. So is it because there's similar types of people within them? Is that what's attracted you to these specific ones?
So I guess I'll start with the ones that I'm a moderator in right now. So I'm a moderator in VDAO and Flower Girls NFT. And so yeah, it did stem from knowing people in the VeeFriends community. We have Jeremy Hone, we have Cohen, we have KCCO Eric, who are the founders of VDAO. And I started off with them with VFam, not yet a DAO, which is now a DAO. So I hope, Gabriel, at some point you provide some education on what a DAO is, or hopefully
Yep.
people who are listening know what a DAO is. But they saw just how active I was in the community and how I was just answering questions when people just wanted to say, hey, what is this project about? And hey, how do I get involved? I saw how busy like Cohen and Jeremy and Eric were, that I was like, you know what? I'm not busy. I know the answers to these questions. So I just started hopping in there and answering questions. And that really stood out to Jeremy, Eric, and Cohen. And they're like, hey, you know, um, we need some help. And, obviously this would be a volunteer position for now. But if you want, we'd love to have you as part of the modding team. And I said, yeah. And, it was already like a few months after the VeeFriends project had launched, so I got to know like who Jeremy is and Cohen and Eric, and I really felt during that time that I could trust them and that they were the people that I should link arms with, because they're just so great at networking and the people that they connect with. And so even though I wasn't going to get paid in that money, like monetarily, but I was like, you know what? The people that I could potentially meet by seeing everyone who comes in through that Discord as a mod could help. And it did. So, I was a mod in the VeeFriends Discord, and Gary V comes into that Discord. He is a member. Well, I shouldn't say he's a member of the DAO. He's just a part of the Discord. And so Gary saw like, hey, here are some mods that are doing really good work, and he needed some mods for a new project. And so Gary reached out to Cohen and said, hey, can we borrow your mods? Because there's a new project that needs help. I want to support them, and I'd love to shoot them your mods over. And so Cohen approached me and said, hey, Gary V is asking for you specifically. He's asking for these mods. And they didn't reveal to me what the project was, but I said, hey, if it's Gary V, asking, yeah, I'm gonna say yeah. So what it was the Flower Girls NFT project, and so he connected me to that team with Varvera, who's the artist and founder of the project, and the rest of the team. And I did get paid. I got paid as a mod for the very first time, and then that's when I saw all the possibilities, of how you can attack Web3, whether it's collecting and investing in NFTs, whether it's, being a blog writer or even a mod. There's potential to make some money too. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with this. I kind of forgot, but yeah, the point is that I did start this journey into these other projects through VeeFriends.
Yeah, and I think networking is a big part of it, and it's another reason I love being so early and specifically sticking around during what we'll call a bear market because it weeds all of the people out and the people that stick around start developing those relationships even like deeper, right? Everyone's getting closer, we're getting to know each other more, we're discovering more people who really appreciate the technology, they're really passionate about it, they're educating people on it, they're trying to do good in the space and it's just massive networking, but it's such a small subset of people in terms of what the adoption will eventually be like to where we're connecting with future thought leaders, future executives of massive billion-dollar brands, and we don't even know it yet,
Yeah.
right? And so it is such a critical time to be going out, meeting new people, trying to like just join discords and network with people because you never know who you're in front of and what they're going to end up doing and where your skill set can be valuable to them, especially if they remember you, you're consistently chatting with them, right? You don't even know who you're impacting and in what ways and how that will come back to you tenfold down the road.
No, exactly. And, I really encourage anyone who's just trying to find, what they're good at if they want to transition into Web3. And I really just say, ask people, what can I help with? And if they say, hey, I need help with video editing, I have all this film footage, I just need someone to edit it, just maybe take some time out of your day and help them out. Obviously, no one wants to do everything for free, but even just that small little thing you're offering, your support, could be life changing because people are going to remember that. People are going to remember, okay, so and so was the one who was there and was there when I needed the help. And so people are going to remember that and want to help you later on. So when you need the help, when you start asking for support, hey, I'm looking for a position in Web3, or hey, I need help to connect with this person, there's going to be people who are in your circle that I say, hey, I know the type of person you are. I can vet for you because I know you're helpful, you're kind. Let me connect you.
So I want to go into the VeeLeadHers
Sure.
and again, formerly known as V Women. And I would love to hear about the origin story. How did that start? And how did it get to what it's grown to today?
Yeah, it's so funny how you're like, how's it grown to what it is today? And I'm like, man, that was just like a couple months ago we just started that. But really, I mean, so much has happened in that time. But yeah, so the way this started was there's a wonderful friend in the VeeFriends community. Her name is Emily. She goes by just the Japanese girl on Twitter. And she reached out to me saying, hey, we've got VCon coming up in
Yes.
in May, and I think we should have like a get together with all the women in the VeeFriends. And there's tons of supportive women in the VeeFriends community. We've got Alyssa, Amanda, um, Julie Sue, like all these phenomenal powerhouse women in the VeeFriends community that are doing amazing things. And she said, we should all get together right before VCon. And I said, hell yeah, yeah, we should. And why haven't any of us done this already? Like, how come no one's put like a group chat just for like the women of VeeFriends? And so Immediately when she said that, I started a private Twitter DM and I just started adding anyone I could remember and think of. And then I soon discovered that our cap on Twitter DM was 75 people. And there was like more people who wanted to come into it. So then I created a WhatsApp group. And we've got people like Swansit in there. We've got people like Sarah Bauman from Women in Weapons. And we've got Maha, who's Gary V's PR manager. So we've got like a lot of leaders in the NFT space that are in this chat. And so people were starting to see the momentum we were having. And I just said, hey, everyone. So it's me and Emily. We think we want to have like a meetup, right before VCon in Minneapolis. Is there anyone who wants to help out? And we saw some people who wanted to help. So we had Seema Alexander who stepped up. We had Natalie. We had Holly and Carly and Gemma. And so the seven of us kind of came together and was like, okay, let's start figuring out, here we are. We've never been to Minneapolis, Minnesota, but let's start looking into venues. How much does it cost? And this and that. And so really it just was a meetup. That's how it really started. It wasn't supposed to be anything more. But then once people started seeing that we were booking out an event and we were putting on this meetup, we had women in our group chat saying like, oh my God, how can I support you more? Can I sponsor? Can I donate money? Thank you so much. And this means a lot. And I started realizing that this is something that needed to happen, that was going to be bigger than just a meetup, because people were saying how they're so thankful for this meetup because they had anxiety. They had anxiety because they had maybe never traveled before. There are women traveling alone. There are women who are traveling after the pandemic and forgot, what it's like to be social and around crowds again. And so once we started seeing that there was a need and we wanted to help these people, well, we're like, you know what? Let's not have a DJ. Let's not have a big performance or anything. Let's really focus on having people break that ice and start networking and start really connecting, because we already know the welcome party for VCon was going to be loud. It was going to be big. There was going to be so much stimulus. And when you're in a high anxiety mode, you don't want to be around that. That makes it worse, right? So we're like, let's really focus on just having like an intimate experience with women. But then there were also men and people, from all different backgrounds who are like, hey, I think this is really cool. I think, my wife would love something like this. Hey, my sister, my girlfriend that I'm bringing. There was all these men who wanted to support. And we were like, you know what? We shouldn't just limit this to women. We should be inclusive of everybody and anyone, no matter how you identify. And so we opened it up to everyone. And little did we know how many people were actually going to show up. We planned, I think, to have like 150, maybe 200 people show up. But we had at least a minimum of 300. And of course, Gary V. Gary V came, and we didn't know he was going to come. And thanks to Maha, Maha was the one who told Gary V that, there's a community putting, a group together right before the welcome party. And Gary wanted to go to some of those community satellite events. And thankfully, he chose ours. And so, yeah, Maha was a huge supporter early on in what we were doing. And we really connected with her because she's from Minnesota. And so she was the one who like recommended Finnegan's, which is where we had our V.
Hey everyone, Gabriel here. So bummed to tell you that something happened during the recording and the podcast got cut a little bit short during the recording. The good news is Valerie already so graciously agreed to jump into a part 2 in the coming weeks. So stay tuned, keep your eyes peeled. We'll get into some good stuff to make up for it on the back end. But I appreciate you all listening and hope you're able to get some value.